Hello and welcome to This Week in the Garden. For this week's episode, we're going to talk about troubleshooting tomatoes. That's the video that y'all voted and you wanted to see last week when we did our special edition poll. So we're going to talk about some early diseases that you might see in your tomatoes, some things that might happen earlier in the year, and then if we have interest and things change later in the year, I'll shoot a video for that as well. But the main things that happen earlier in the year are issues with transplanting. Whether you're overwatering or underwatering, that can be a big deal that doesn't really show up until about a week to 2 weeks after you've transplanted. Now, if you're overwatering, the leaves will start to turn yellow, they'll get really soft, floppy. If you're underwatering, they'll also get yellow, but they'll get really crinkly and hard, almost like a potato chip. And so that's how you can tell the difference. And sometimes, really, you'll see those differences in a single row. So you might have some plants that you overwater, some that you underwater, and part of it has to do with the soil around the plants, but just really the type of plants as well. So I'll show an image here of some of the plants in my row where I have one that was underwatered, but the rest were fine, and I thought that I was watering them all the same. So it happens really in all gardens. The next thing that you might see earlier in the year is cold damage, and we're starting to get out of that time frame now, although we did have some cold weather last week. But when you have cold damage, if it's just a little bit of cold weather, a few hours close to freezing, the leaves might start to curl, you might have some of your flowers fall off and things like that. If it's a harder freeze, you might notice that some of the leaves look burnt, almost as if you were to take an acid and drip it on the leaves. They'll turn kind of a tan color and it's really splotchy on the leaves. So be on the lookout for that. As long as it's not completely covering the plant, it should outgrow most cold damage for your tomatoes. Another thing you might see earlier in the year is bacterial wilt, and that happens usually in the soil that's cold and damp. The bacteria will get inside the plant, and you'll notice around the stems they start to get brown and yellow, and that's where the bacteria is in your plant, and the plant will slowly wilt. Now you can make sure it's a bacterial wilt by cutting open the plant and then seeing if it's kind of sticky on the inside or kind of gooey. That'll be the bacteria. You can also cut it open and stick it in water, and if you start to notice the water change colors, it might be due from bacterial wilt. Now there's really not much you can do. You can replant since it is early in the year. Just don't put your plants in the exact same spot. So you'll want to move them over about 6 to 12 inches. That's really it for the three main early season things. The next thing are diseases that start to come up really around this time of year and a little bit later. It includes a number of fungal diseases and viruses, and I'm not going to get into too much detail. I'll have that information in the article. But what you can do to sort of prevent these things is control your watering and make sure that your tomatoes have a lot of airflow. Now these diseases oftentimes are coming from the soil and plants that are really stressed. So when you're watering, you want to make sure you water near the base of the plant. That prevents any splashing from overhead watering. Now you might get some splashing from the rain anyways, but you really want to try to limit how much of this fungus and virus can get on your plants. And so watering close to the plant is the best way to do that. You can also put things like mulch around your plants, and that'll help to prevent any splashing of the soil, because these things, again, are mostly in the soil. Now as far as pruning goes, what you want to do is prune your leaves that are turning yellow. So there's a number of reasons why leaves might turn yellow, whether you're over or under watering, if it's not getting enough sunlight, or if it has a disease. And for any of these reasons, you need to remove those leaves because they're not going to be doing any work for your tomato plant. So you might as well get them out of the way because they're really an area where diseases can prosper. So you'll want to prune these out. Make sure that you clean your pruners with some type of bleach solution. You can use a Lysol wipe or something like that. Just make sure you wipe them off so you're not spreading your disease. And then take those leaves and the stems that you've cut and throw them away. Tomatoes are really just a big pool for diseases, and so you want to remove them from your garden. You don't want to compost them because the spores can stay around for a long time. So go ahead and take them, throw them in the trash, or you can burn them, but you want to get rid of that plant material. So those are the things that you can do to help prolong your tomato. Really, they're ticking time bombs of disease. They will eventually get a disease at some point in the year, and that's likely what's going to make them lose all their leaves. But if you can prevent this for a long amount of time, you'll get more tomatoes out of your tomatoes in your garden. So that's all we have for this week's episode. If you have any questions or any comments, we have a form that you can fill out, and that's going to be on our website, but I'll have the link in our article. Also check out our new website. We've been updating it pretty regularly. It's got all of our old videos, so if you missed those, you can check those out. And then this is the last day for our giveaway, so there's still time till 5 o'clock today to send me a picture for our seed giveaway. But with that, that's all we have. I hope you stay tuned for next time in This Week in the Garden.